merchandise alone, I'm sorry, this is blowing pretty much Star Trek away. You've got video games, you've got costumes, you've got, well, basically everything I'm wearing. You've got arcades. And there was never a Star Trek arcade game released back in the 70s, but there was a Star Wars game released back in the 70s.
That's not true.
Actually, it was. I played in the skate rink back in 1979.
There was a Star Trek game.
Arcade.
Arcade.
There was an arcade game.
Oh, okay.
Commercial
Only got that
every
one.
Star Trek.
One of the things too is that there was never a national day named after Star Trek. There is May 4th, as in May the 4th be with you. So,
That was a made-up thing. But yet everybody
Star Trek is a made-up thing.
Pop culture.
The pop culture actually impact is, aside from children, I was over at Gotham City Comics. Woo! And there's one little child here who looks directly at me and goes, "Oh, it's Boba Fett." I don't care. And nowhere does anybody go up, "Oh, you're Picard." And I'm 3 years old. No, that doesn't happen, sorry. Some other things too is that Star Tours is still going on. Strong. Star Trek, Vegas killed it. It didn't make any money. So it's not coming back. You still got Star Tours, which is, okay, you want to use the term rebooted, it has been, but it's still going strong. Star Wars has always been going strong, where Star Trek has pretty much petered off into someone's basement. Now I'm talking about you.
Don't get it personal.
We don't have basements and feet.
No personal.
Star Wars games. Do I really need to name all the consoles from anywhere from the trash 80s to Commodore 64s? Oh, okay, I can't.
Not saying they were all good, but they still were there.
You've also got Legos. The amount of Legos in the Star Wars universe is huge, constantly. Books on the Lego universe is being used. Video games on Star Wars Legos. There's no Star Trek Legos, is there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but another case in point. I go over to the Lego store about every month during the summertime because they have a Star Wars Lego building event for kids. No Star Trek Lego building event. So the culture on this is that it starts with the children, and children love it. They always have, even my nephews, when they grew up, they watched this series, and they didn't watch Star Trek.
Whose fault is that?
So then on the last note also, speaking on the merchandise and all that stuff, from when the first movie came out to this day, the merchandise has continued to flow out, continue to change, continue to evolve. There's not been a period where it has stopped being marketed. You go to any store that sells toys and you will find Star Wars merchandise. So.
Oh, Panda.
He's going to continue, but
Good job,
first
Star
point
Wars.
is, talk about creativity, but building Legos, following the instructions is not... Okay, in terms of purity, and you're right, like commodity-wise, they got it. So you have a whole generation of kids who can follow instructions, yay. Whereas you have Star Trek guys who actually build the damn spaceships that will take us into space and colonize the rest of the universe. So that's just my point. I'm going to let him continue before I go off.
Actually, a lot of the science today...
Hold on,
No counters yet. No counters. Let her finish.
I'd just like to say that Star Trek had the first conventions long before anybody else, and you know where conventions have gone with Comic-Con and Dragon Con. That's expanded, and it's global now. Star Trek also has more iconic sayings like "Live long and prosper," "Beam me up, Scotty." We've got the Vulcan salute, which everybody can do, right? None of the Star Trek actors have ever been banned from conventions, but Star Wars can't say that, that's for sure.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. Yeah, David Prowse, who was the original Darth Vader, is not allowed to go to conventions anymore as Darth Vader. Lucas basically got sick of him grumbling and complaining and banned him completely.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one.
I'd also say that Star Trek has had more of an impact technology-wise. So I mean, Apple products, all based on Star Trek, and I mean,
We already
Apple,
talked about that.
but it's affected our culture, and I mean, Apple is part of our culture now, and that all comes from Star Trek. There's no question about that. Star Trek is definitely iconic. I was watching the news recently, and somebody referred to the GOP presidential group as a Star Trek convention. So, and I would say that Star Wars has been over-commoditized.
To the best of my knowledge, none of the Star Wars actors have ever released an album, but at least 3 of the Star Trek actors, including Shatner's album last month.
Star Wars, counter?
Wait,
Yes.
Can we have audience?
Sure,
Yes.
sure.
I just wanted to say one thing. Also, I don't know if Star Wars has done this, but Star Trek has, like every few years, they have like a national tour in the museums, the art museums.
Star Wars.
Do they do that?
Magic and the Myth.
Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm just saying.
What would you say we never went to the Star Wars?
Go to the other side. Just putting it out.
Someone should make that.
I would also like to say that there's books by Star Trek people, so.
There's plenty of books.
There are books written by actors.
There are plenty of books by the Star Trek people and the Star Trek actors, but they're all adult or young adult at best books. The Star Wars books, you've got kids series out there, you've got kindergarten series out there that are written for little kids. So it's much more inclusive and much more
Well, I think
expansive.
she was saying
Quantity.
books by the actual actors.
Yes.
Shatner is written, Koenig is written.
Yes, because
Carrie
all the
Fisher wrote
conflict was on the
Postcards
set.
from the Edge, which was made into a movie, so that doesn't thing. But how many of their books have been written to a movie? I guess Tech War, right? Tech War!
Yeah, that too.
And also in pop culture, I like to say that while only a few of the actors have gone on with Star Wars, Mark Hamill's the Joker for the Batman series for kids. Carrie Fisher's and then of course Han Solo got turned into more pop culture icons with Indiana Jones and the Clancy series and everything like that.
Why did they
Well-
do the Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, so we have Will Wheaton, Brent Spiner, they've all been on. Will Wheaton has been a voice actor for Ben 10. He's been on for a lot of other shows.
And that's why Jar Jar Binks is just the Wesley Crusher of Star Wars universe. So.
I don't know the answer, but I do know that Kirk's chair is in the Smithsonian.
Yes, it is.
Is there anything in the Smithsonian from Star Wars?
Probably a lot of stuff.
Probably a lot of stuff's not in it.
Nothing on Star Trek has ever become as bad a cultural whipping boy as Jar Jar was.
Can't argue that one.
Yeah, Jar Jar sucks, but at least Star Wars admits its mistakes.
I like it.
Okay, so the current impact on pop culture is, we're talking about, okay, that's a debate on how many movies there are, but compared to how many series there are
Okay.
of Star Trek, then that affects pop culture, right?
Are you talking
Because
about
there's-
series that have been
Star Trek-
TV shows?
Yeah, TV shows. Like there's so many TV shows
Absolutely.
versus
Maybe
how
that's
many
the
movies.
problem, there's so many TV shows.
But that's
Well, there's so much merchandising. It's such overkill.
All right,
It got the
all right. So we've got off on a track.
Actually, just
Hold on.
have him say the
It's out of the TV area, but as far as pop culture, I'm really into hip hop, and in that genre, Star Wars dominates. I mean, there's a hip hop group called Jedi Mind Tricks. Everybody's using the Force. I mean, come on, the Force. I mean, it goes with chi energy. It's using the Force. Everybody, if you go out on the street and you ask a kid, would you like a phaser or a lightsaber? Lightsaber. Come on. How many of you have even got interested in doing some kind of martial arts or something from watching Star Wars? I mean, it takes it to a whole nother level. The Force is deep.
All right.
That was a good one.
And in response to the Smithsonian, Star Wars, The Magic and Myth was originally an exhibit at the Smithsonian.
That's true.
And Jonathan?
Yes, go
I used to
ahead.
say, the original question was the impact on pop culture. We've sort of diverted to who's produced more stuff.
Exactly.
I'm kind of wondering if we can kind of get back on specifically how has Star Wars affected pop culture outside of Star Wars, and how has Star Trek affected pop culture outside of Star Trek? Does that make sense?
I think that was the answer. That's good.
That was
That was one answer, though. I was wondering if it was answer.
This was a good one.
Anyone else?
Well, there's
Without Star Trek, we
Well,
wouldn't.
pop culture, not technology.
Well, no, I mean, Star Trek is a lot better vehicle to like get people interested in sciences. I mean, We went to the Star Trek live show last week.
Pop culture,
Pop culture.
not science.
Pop culture is
Pop
not
culture.
science or technology.
Why not?
Sorry.
So,
It's a vehicle to get
Last
people
question.
interested.
It's
Use
nerd
pop
culture.
culture.
so
I
the,
can't.
Nerd culture.
It's not. Yeah.
So the guy from Project Runway, the one who says "Make It Work," recently did a whole series about
Tim Gunn.
how Tim Gunn, thank you,
Yeah.
did a whole series on how Star Trek fashion
Absolutely.
has
It's good.
influenced fashion today. So there's a direct pop culture reference for it.
I think I have to say too, for also with Star Trek, with pop, if we're going to talk about technology, is we have the iPads now and our touchscreen phones, which you can originally see in a lot of the Star Trek stuff. And then with Star Wars,
Droid.
I think with Star Wars, there are more groups as pop culture that get together. I here in town, let alone, we have the United Federation of Phoenix, and they're not a very big group, but we do have the 501st, we have the Rebel Legions, we have the Mandalorians, we have all of that stuff that gets together, and we see it really big with Phoenix Comic Con, but they get together and do a lot of good causes and things like that. They do the cancer walks, they go to children's parties, they do all that. Where the United Federation, especially with Phoenix, they don't really do a lot except get together, and they're an older group. It doesn't really invite younger people in and teach them how to be a part of it. It's just like, we know about it, we're an old dogs club.
That's because we're working on the cures for the disease.
Exactly. By the same token, the Star Trek groups were really the ones that were lit the fire under the butt of fandom, and they were really the first that were starting to get the conventions together, starting to get the groups. I mean, there were Star Trek conventions before there was a Star Wars.
I don't think there's a Star Wars equivalent of the movie Trekkies.
Or Trekkies 2.
Exactly.
Or the
All right, we have an audience.
But Fanboys is not a documentary. Fanboys is
Ridiculous. And Trekkies is
You've
entertaining.
also got Starway. You've got what's it, Jedi Junkies, the one that was just released for Blu-ray.
Star Warriors on Blu-ray.
Okay, audience.
Never heard of them.
A point I wanted to make, in Star Trek, correct me if I'm wrong, recently I have seen a commercial for something that was not Star Wars. It was a Volkswagen commercial with a little kid dressed up as Darth Vader making the car start. I have yet to see anything recent that was a Star Trek-based commercial for something else.
You've also got online Chad Vader, which is a huge.
All right, audience. Hey guys.
Navigator has Darth Vader's voice.
This may be a can we all get along Rodney King moment, but
Did you want to hug?
really,
I get Mando hugs.
call me later. I like leather. So we could talk. You know, I think you're right. Star Trek really did found a lot of the inner sanctum. I'm into sci-fi fandom and fan pride, if you will. And then Star Wars kind of broke down the barrier and took that to the masses. So it's kind of like without one, you couldn't have the other on either side.
Okay.
So without Star Wars fans, you wouldn't have new Star Trek fans. Without Star Trek fans, there wouldn't be Obi-Wan in a costume.
Okay. Fair question. Go ahead.
I just want to say, as far as like Shatner's concerned, like he is such like a pop icon in general, and I think it all stems from him being on Star Trek, and so like everyone talks. Like, I don't think, even if they realize it's from Star Trek, the way he talks, like, his acting style, that's like parodying, like, every stupid comedy. So, I think that affects pop culture, is William Shatner himself, like, how he
Are you
does that.
saying you don't like the way he acts?
Exactly. That's why he's Priceline, that's why he's so
This may be a little bit off, but Family Guy is a very big thing. Have you seen Family Guy devote 3 full hour-long episodes to Star Trek? No.
Futurama is also a big thing, and they've had, what, 3 episodes based on Star Trek?
Yeah, Robot Chicken.
Family Guy had one episode.
But on that same note, Star Wars has also appeared in a lot of TV shows and movies from being reenacted in Reign of Fire, Muppet Babies, Animaniacs. It appears.
That's because it's easier to make fun of.
I also like to throw our very own nerd geek master and icon. Kevin Smith is a huge Star Wars fan, and I know he just never goes on these long rants and complaints and swearing things about Star Trek. Never.
Yeah, but he's just huge in general.
So is Star Wars.
I meant as an icon. My God, you people are terrible.
Spaceballs.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Okay, that was great. You guys have some counters?
Galaxy Quest.
Well,
Galaxy Quest.
And equally bad.
Love
Let's not forget today, if I had the only
I love
positive
that
contribution to come from Star Wars. Yay to all the stay players who come to every convention and make my day.
No, that's dirty Harry.
Take my name.
Oh.
All right, I think we got that question over with. Yes.
Feels
All
like
right.
ever.
Now we're gonna go to some fun questions. All right. Next question is Princess Leia versus Uhura.
So not fair.
Which